Hello learners. In today's lecture, I am going to discuss with you the meaning, nature and scope of administrative law. We all know that the term administrative law is comprising of two words, administrative plus law. As far as the meaning of the term law is concerned, we are very clear about that. Law is certain set of rules which have a kind of observance from the side of the people. It is, according to the positivist school, command of the sovereign authority, which is obeyed by the people. There are different notions regarding the meaning of the term law. So, law can be said to be certain settled norms which are observable by the people and they are necessary to maintain a kind of rule in the society. And certain remedial mechanism is also provided if that law is broken up. A protection is provided by the state. As far as the term administration is concerned, administrative is drawn from administration. That which is related to administration is administrative. We know the term administer means put something into stream, like administration of polio drops. In the body of a child, the medicine or the vaccine to prevent polio is administered. So put something means administer. Administrative law is that law which is related to administration of the state, administering the duties, administering the executive tasks which are done by the state. So that is the simple understanding of administrative law. It is considered to be a branch of public law. Now, as far as the term administrative law is concerned, it has struggled a lot to be identified. The term administrative law is a newly evolving term, and earlier there was no law like administrative law known to the society. So it is considered to be one of the newly emerging disciplines of law, and it is considered to be a branch of public law. Now, in contrast to the private law, public law is that law which regulates the relationship between the state and the individuals or members of the public. In case of private law, the relationship between the private individuals is being regulated. In case of public law, the regulation of the relationship of the public with the state is primarily a matter of concern. Now, let us look at the different other meanings of the term administrative law and how has it got adapted and gradually got developed. As I said, that administrative law is the law of administration, which is applicable primarily over the executive authority, which execute the law, which execute the policy. In undertaking that executory function, the administrative law is applied. Now, administrative law is recognized as a separate branch uh, only in the middle 20th century, and it is touching almost every area of life. Every area of human life is related to the administrative law because administration is something which is very versatile, and when slowly the state's concept had become more expanded and the functions of the state got extended from the laissez-faire state to the welfare state. The state started looking after various dimensions of life. In the laissez faire policy, the government is supposed to look at only minimal functions. Very minimum functions were performed by the state, like defense and administration of justice and uh, maintenance of law and order, we may say. But later on, when the welfare state functions were being undertaken by the state, then the state had to take care of the increasingly complex needs of the society, like housing, like environment, like education, like health. So the state also started public services to undertake those functions. So then, with that, when the state started taking care of all those functions, it needed a wide administrative apparatus. It had to run that apparatus for executing all those functions, and for that purpose, it needed a system of law. What administrative law do actually? Administrative law create these centers of power. Administrative law create these very important public authorities which are undertaking specific functions. And after creating those authorities, the administrative law is also that part of law which confers power over those administrative authorities. So creation of administrative authority is done by administrative law. Conferment of power is done over those administrative authorities by administrative law. And lastly, control of those authorities, which are the product of administrative law and which are conferred with the powers by the administrative law, a controlling mechanism is also applicable. So the control is also done by the set of rules which also comprises of administrative law. So we may say that there are three C's. Three C's here: creation, conferment, and control. The first part of administrative law is dealing with the creation of administrative authority. The second part is dealing with conferment of power over administrative authorities. And the third part is dealing with the different kinds of multitude of controls which are applicable over those administrative authorities. So the enlargement of the functions of the government led to the growth of administrative law. And so the administrative law is emerging and is getting identified as a new discipline, new branch of law. So the minimum state to the maximum functions undertaken by the state influenced the growth of administrative law, and to supply for various necessities, this specific branch of public law got developed. And I already told you the basic idea of dichotomy between the public law and private law, that the public law is a system of norms which regulate the legal relations between the public authority and the individual. And in contrast to that, the private law is that which is about the regulation of the conduct of the private individuals. So, when the role of public authorities is increasing, when the kinds of public authorities is increasing, then the mechanism to create them, confer power to them, control them also keeps on increasing, and thus the administrative law started growing gradually. Now, with this basic glance over the meaning of term administrative law and why is it needed, let us look at certain explanations of the meaning of the term administrative law. Some more explanations are to be seen. Now, why am I calling them explanations of the term administrative law? because there is no complete definition of administrative law, comprehensive definition, or exhaustive definition of administrative law. And there are different explanations of administrative law which are given by various administrative jurists or lawyers. One very common explanation about the meaning of administrative law is given by Sir Ivor Jennings. Sir Ivor Jennings says that administrative law is the law relating to administration. And he further comments that it determines the organization, power, and duties of administrative authorities. So, administrative law is determining three things according to Ivor Jennings. According to Sir Ivor Jennings, administrative law is determining number one, the organization of the administrative authorities, means their constitution, how will they be comprised, how will they be made, and then secondly, it determines the powers of those authorities, that what kind of power will they acquire, and the duties of administrative authorities are also determined by the administrative law. So this is a kind of purpose-based definition, that these are the three things which are being fulfilled by the certain set of principles which can be identified as administrative law. So this is the explanation given by Sir Ivor Jennings. Now let us see how Dr. F.J. Port explains the meaning of the term administrative law. According to F.J. Port, administrative law is made up of all these legal rules. So he says administrative law is comprising of sets of legal rules. Okay. Administrative law is made up of all these legal rules. Which kind of legal rules? Which are either formally expressed by the statute or implied in the prerogative, which have as their ultimate object the fulfillment of public law. Okay. So F.J. Port says that administrative law is actually different kinds of legal rules. It is a set of legal rules. And what kind of legal rules could these be? These will be, it is possible that these are the rules which are expressed by certain statutes, parliamentary statutes, or these rules, such rules may be implied in the prerogative will. But one thing is there, whether those rules are expressed, whether those rules are implied, they are serving a common purpose. So Port is pointing out that the purpose of administrative law is fulfillment of public law, public good. Then he further explains that which are the areas which are being handled by or addressed by way of administrative law. So Port further comments, it touches first the legislature, means administrative law relates to the legislature. It touches first the legislature in that the formally expressed rules are usually laid down by that body. So how is administrative law relating to legislature? Because some part of administrative law is flowing through the legislative will. Because the statutory law, which is formally expressed in the statute, that part of administrative law is outcome of the legislative law. So it is laid down by the legislature, so it is related to legislature. Second, he says it touches the judiciary. It is also related to judiciary. Administrative law is also related to judiciary. In which regard? That there are certain rules which govern the judicial action, and that may be brought by or against the administrative person. So there are certain rules which are related to the which are governing the administrative actions also. And I will go to the extent of saying that there is certain part of administrative law, and in fact Presently, there is nothing wrong if we say that administrative law is largely the product of judiciary. It is largely the judge-made law, and in the process of governance uh, of the justice, delivery of the justice, the judiciary is settling various principles which are very important principles of administrative law. For instance, principle of reasonableness, legitimate expectation, doctrines, they are doctrines. Doctrine of public accountability is also a product of a decision given by the court. So there are various kinds of norms which are settled by the judiciary, which have acquired their individual place in the system of administrative law, and these norms are observable by the administrative authorities whenever they undertake their functions. Further, he says that this law also touches the administrative bodies, because administrative bodies are sometimes permitted to exercise the judicial powers. So they perform quasi-judicial functions. When the administrative authorities are permitted to perform judicial powers, it is not actually called judicial function. It is called as the quasi-judicial work which is done by the administrative authorities. So Port further says that thirdly, it is of course essentially concerned with the practical application of law. So it is administrative law is essentially concerned with the practical application of law. So these are the various areas which are pointed out by FJ Port with regard to the applicability of administrative law and the connectivity of administrative law with the judiciary, the connectivity of administrative law with the legislature. So administrative law is dealing with the various kinds of powers exercised by different organs of administration. It is dealing with the composition of the authorities which are functioning in various areas of administration. Various modes of controls are also suggested by the administrative authorities. So when the administrative bodies perform quasi-judicial functions, they apply administrative law. When the administrative authorities apply rule-making functions, they apply administrative law. When they perform their executive functions, they apply administrative law. And at the first place, when these authorities are created, that is a product of administrative law. Their creation is a product of administrative law. And when these authorities are created and when they exercise these different kind of functions, the procedure which is applicable in performance of those functions is also treated to be administrative law. And if any wrong is committed by those authorities, then the remedies are also provided by the mechanism of administrative law. And there are yardsticks of different nature which are settled by the judiciary also, which must be taken care of by the administrative authorities while undertaking their functions. And if those yardsticks are not fulfilled, it is considered that they have not done their work well, and their function is ultra virus, and it is likely to be struck down by the courts in that case. So the administrative law is performing various kinds of functions. These examples show, and I think that by this time you must be in a position to explain as to uh, what are the what is the scope of administrative law, and what are the areas which are addressed by administrative law, what are the purposes which are being served by the creation of administrative law, how versatile it is. This small explanation shows the versatility of administrative law. So as far as the nature of administrative law is concerned, we can say that administrative law is including multifarious powers which are exercised by administrative authorities, not a single kind of power. Administrative power also, judicial power also, and the quasi judicial power also. Now, in that regard, Another explanation is given by Friedman as far as the nature and scope of administrative law is concerned. Friedman explains about administrative law, and he comments that the legislative parts of administration are very vast. And he says that administrative law includes the law which is relating to many things. So Friedman comments that administrative law includes the law which is relating to, firstly, the legislative power of administration, whether under the common law or under the statute. Then he says that administrative law deals with the administrative parts of administration. And then he says that administrative law deals with the judicial and quasi judicial power of administration. So, administrative law is dealing with the legislative parts, administrative parts, and judicial or quasi judicial parts of administration, Friedman explains. And he also comments that administrative law fixes the legal liability of the public authorities. What is their liability if they are not undertaking their function well? The liability of the public authorities, the public servants, is also fixed by the administrative law. So he is also talking about remedies, not only power, he is also talking about remedy. That he is also talking about liability of the public authorities. And he also says that the administrative law relates to the power of the ordinary courts to supervise the administrative authorities. So the administrative authorities are being supervised by the ordinary courts, and that power of the courts to supervise the administrative authorities, which is also a kind of mechanism related to control of the administrative authorities, is considered to be a very significant part of administrative law by Friedman. So Friedman is not only talking about the relationship of administrative law with legislative, with the exercise in the exercise of legislative power, or the exercise of administrative power or quasi judicial power, whatever law is applicable, how they function is administrative law. He is saying this. Along with that, Friedman is also pointing out at the legal liability of the public authorities and the power of the ordinary courts to supervise the administrative authorities. So he's talking about that. Okay. So in this manner, we can say that administrative law is not only about control, administrative law is also about remedy. Administrative law is not something which is merely talking about creation of the administrative body or control of the administrative bodies. This is also related to the remedial mechanisms. So we may say that if we look at the scope of administrative law is everywhere. Every area of human life is related to the administrative law, is related to this law of administration. So let us see whether it is a matter related to the payment of wages. Wage board would be treated to be an authority which is created through administrative law. It will have a particular kind of constitution or composition. Particular kind of procedure will be adopted by the wage board in undertaking its functions, and the mistakes are if committed, then the remedial mechanism is also provided. So whether it is the area of revenue, whether it is the area of running of administrative tribunals or commissions of inquiry, everywhere we see administrative law. Even in a simple educational institution, we have an administrative office, we have an administrative block where certain administrative authorities will be sitting. They would be producing rules in some cases. They would be indulging into some kind of discretionary work, which is purely administrative. Sometimes there will be some quasi judicial actions performed by them. They also must be in a position to give certain decisions which are going to affect the rights of the students. So administration is there everywhere or all pervasive, and so administrative law is needed, and it is there dealing with those administrative bodies and creating them, imposing of functions over them, controlling them. So administrative authorities, wherever they are functioning, the administrative law is providing their constitution, the remedial mechanism, the procedural guarantees are there provided by the administrative law. The liability of the government authorities is provided by the administrative law. And we know that because of this versatility, because of this element of versatility, the administrative law is growing day by day. Now, let us look at few more explanations of the term administrative law. Like, if we look at the explanation given by A.V. Dicey, Sir A.V. Dicey also explains the term administrative law. A.V. Dicey says that he defines that administrative law is denoting that portion of a nation's legal system. Administrative law denotes at that portion of a nation's legal system which determines the legal status and liabilities of all state officials. So, administrative law determines the legal status and liabilities of all state officials. This is what A.V. Dicey explains, and he says that administrative law defines the rights and liabilities of private individuals in their dealings with public officials. So, administrative law defines the rights and liabilities of the individuals in their dealings with public officials, and which specifies the procedure by which those rights and liabilities are enforced. The procedure by which those rights and liabilities are enforced is also defined by the administrative law. So, this is the explanation given by A.V. Dicey. So, some what are the basic points which are emerging from this explanation given by Dicey? Firstly, he is saying that administrative law is a part of a nation's legal system. This is established by A.V. Dicey. Secondly, he is saying that administrative law determines the legal status and liabilities of the state officials. Okay, the legal status and liabilities of the state officials is determined by the administrative law. Then he says that it defines the rights and liabilities of the private individuals in their dealings with the public officials, and it also specifies the procedure with which those rights and liabilities are enforced. So it is a new dimension which is given to the meaning of administrative law. Elaborate explanation given by A.V. Dicey. Along with this explanation, William Wade is another author who had tried to explain administrative law very simply, and he says that administrative law is that law which is related to the control of governmental power. Administrative law is that law which is relating to the control of governmental power. So he is talking about control only. He is not talking about remedial aspect. So according to various jurists, the definition given by Wade is not complete because it is only concentrating towards the controlling aspect, and it is probably putting more emphasis upon the courts because courts are undertaking the function of control. So as far as the other aspects are concerned, are not provided in the definition given by Wade. So from that angle, a study was undertaken by author duo Harlow and Rawlings. Harlow and Rawlings had written a book, and they have divided the studies of administrative law into various segments, and they have given two theories, red light theory and green light theory. to look at the purposes of administrative law. The red light theory is basically about the controlling aspect of administration. So, according to the red light theory, the purpose of administrative law is to control the administrative bodies. And this is the basic purpose which is served by the administrative body, to control. Now, the various jurists, including Wade, could be said to belong to the red light school because, according to them, predominantly the purpose of administrative law is to control. According to the red light theory, when we talk about control, then we look at some external body to control. And so the red light mechanism or the red light theory puts more emphasis upon courts for controlling the administrative apparatus. I'm sorry. As far as the green light school is concerned or green light theory is concerned, it is not emphasizing upon control. Rather, it is talking about the uh, facilitating mechanism with which the administration could function appropriately so that it would lead to less mistakes and there will not be need of some external control from outside. So the green light mechanism is more putting emphasis upon the legislative approach. The law will be made in such a manner that the constitution of administrative authorities, the law will be framed in such a shape that the composition or constitution of administrative authorities will be appropriate, balanced, leading to less faults. The administration itself will give lay emphasis upon training and supervision so that less faults would be committed. Self-guided principles will be there. Okay, the role of press can also be emphasized. The participation of the people in improving administration can also be emphasized. So these all approaches are coming within the green light theory, which is treating the purpose of administrative law not merely to control but to facilitate the administrative functioning. And some new authors, most of the new authors, they prefer to say that presently it is a amber light regime where the green light and the red light theories combined together to provide a new theory to give rise to a new theory which is called as the amber light theory. And the amber light theory is a combination of the green light and red light approaches. It also talks about the controlling aspect. It also talks about the facilitation of the administrative work. Both are equally important, and both is the purpose of administrative law to achieve. So these are the some prominent definitions we have seen. The approach given by Friedman. We have looked at what Sir Ivor Jennings say about the meaning of administrative law. We have seen what William Wade had said. We also in the beginning observed about the explanation given by F.J. Port about the meaning of administrative law. And one author, K.C. Davis, is very vital to discuss here. The full name of K.C. Davis is Kenneth Culp Davis. Kenneth Culp Davis says that administrative law is concerning the powers and procedures. Administrative law is concerning the powers and procedures of administrative agencies, including especially the law governing the judicial review of administrative action. I repeat this definition, which is given by Sir Kenneth Culp, which is given by Kenneth Culp Davis in his book Administrative Law Text in 1959. This book is written by Kenneth Culp Davis, and he explains that administrative law is the law concerning the powers and procedures of administrative authorities, including especially the law governing the judicial review of administrative action. So, this definition given by K.C. Davis is also putting emphasis upon the red light approach because it is talking about judicial review of administrative action, although it is also saying that the procedural mechanism is also included. And if the procedure is appropriately followed, the mistakes will be less by administrative authorities. So, in this manner, Casey Davis also has given a vital explanation of the term administrative law. So, we may say that administrative law is a versatile discipline and the inevitable law in the present apparatus of a state because of the growth in the state functions. And as we know that the Law Commission also in its 14th report has uh, given the reasons for the growth of administrative law, and which is also pointing out at the significance of administrative law. And in the 14th report of Law Commission, it was pointed out that the society is in the 20th century, and that is a very complex society. It is exceedingly, the society in the 20th century has become exceedingly complex, and the governmental functions have multiplied to a great extent, and so the function of the state is also changed greatly, and the scope and characteristic of the government has changed from negative to positive, from laissez-faire to the public services state, and that has resulted in the concentration of considerable powers in the hands of the executive branch of government. And for that, invigorating concept of executive branch of government, we need to have some rules, some regulations, some powers, some authorities, some remedies, some control, some guidance, which must be applied over and applied by the executive branch of the government. And so the administrative law is very wide law by nature and scope, and it is so wide and so versatile that it is difficult to uh, define it in nutshell, and there are various explanations of administrative law which are given, which we have discussed. So administrative law is a law which is, we may use a new another term here, rule of law, that administrative law is to promote rule of law in the society, and with the common objective to promote the rule of law, observance of law, the administrative law is functioning. And for the purpose of achieving a orderly government, for the function of achieving the constitutional principles, the administrative law is working. And as the areas of the state are increasing, the administrative law is also expanding day by day. It is also growing day by day. Newer dimensions are being added in the administrative law, like administrative tribunals were earlier not known, but they also got developed. So this development is because of, it could be said to be the development of administrative law. It has added another new stream, another new chapter, another new dimension in the studies of administrative law. How these tribunals would be created, what procedure will they follow, how will they function, how will remedy be there, what will be the liability. So similarly, commissions of inquiries got developed. Similarly, the regulatory authorities are established. So the administrative apparatus is increasing, and administrative law is also increasing, and the definitions of administrative law are also becoming wider day by day, more exhaustive day by day, although there is no foolproof complete definition of administrative law. So, we will be discussing in the coming lectures more about administrative law. In today's lecture, we have discussed about the nature and scope of administrative law, and we also have looked at a few explanations or the definitions of administrative law given by various administrative jurists. So, in the future, in the coming lecture, we shall be discussing the details of the development of administrative law, how it had evolved, and what were the riders in the growth of administrative law, and how those riders were overcome. We shall see the relationship between rule of law, separation of powers, and administrative law, and also constitutionalism and administrative law in the coming lectures. So, hope you have enjoyed the lecture, And you are, I think, by the end of the lecture, you must be in a position to explain the nature and scope of administrative law, and you must be in a position to comment upon some of the explanations or definitions of administrative law given by various authors. Thank you so much for being with me in this lecture, and I wish happy learning to all of you. And let us meet again in the coming lectures with the new, more topics, other interesting topics. Thank you so much. Thanks a lot.